Well, my grandparents flew all the way from Maine to be here this morning, and yesterday we were able to celebrate with them 55 years of marriage. So if you would, give them a hand. Well, you can ask just about anyone that knows me, and you will quickly find out that I have made some poor decisions in my life. And years ago, I was visiting my grandparents over Thanksgiving break with my siblings and cousins, and we ran out of stuff to do, so we thought it would be a good idea to shoot some construction workers next door with our BB guns. Now, I was terrified of my dad finding out when he came into the room where I was sitting, and he gave me a stern look and said, "You're coming with us." So I hopped in the car with my uncles and grandpa, and 20 minutes later, we arrived at a nursing home here in Joplin. Well, the nurses led the 5 of us to a dark concrete walled room, and I didn't know why I was there, but I quickly wished I wasn't. The room smelled like a dirty sock, and it was freezing cold. But before I could ask my dad what was going on, 2 massive double doors swung wide open, and the largest man I had ever seen was wheeled in. Now, growing up, kids called me anything from String Bean to Danny Tanner, but this guy was no beanpole, all right? He easily weighed in excess of 500 pounds. So my grandpa explained to us that this man wanted to surrender his life to Jesus. So we prayed with him, and we helped him roll over into a giant tub of water, and we gently baptized him there. It took 8 people to lift him out of the tub, and the nurses stripped him down in front of us, and let's just say there was nothing left to the imagination. Well, my dad handed me a towel and told the nurses, my son would love to dry him off. And I wish that all I had to do was dry off his feet, but you get the picture. Embarrassed, I turned to my uncles hoping to get some sympathy. And that's when my Uncle John smiled and said, "Gives a whole new meaning to wiping sins away, doesn't it?" I have made some poor decisions in my life, like shooting a stranger with a BB gun. But one of the best decisions I ever made was to come to Ozark. It was here that I began to grasp that Jesus is alive. I've not only met Jesus in the classroom, but also while serving children in a hospital in Honduras. The children were missing limbs and were without proper medicine and treatment. When the high school students I was with asked each child if there was anything we could do for them, to our surprise, one child asked us to sing. So we began a song, and people flooded into the room. And you would never think that 5 young guys singing off-key would bring so much happiness into so much heartache, but it did. And I met Jesus there. I met Jesus while listening to my friend Charlie from Nicaragua, who shared with me that he was beaten up and harassed at work for following Jesus. He later told me, "Jesus helps me overcome." I met Jesus in Oscar, a Costa Rican church planner, who shared with me that a gang of teenagers had kidnapped him and held a gun to his head. But he looked them in the eyes and he told them, "You need Jesus." I also met Jesus in a homeless man who approached me while I was studying at Landreth Park. He was clutching a bottle of Jack Daniels. He was angry. He said, "I'm not happy anymore. I just need a friend." After we talked, Mark met my friend Jesus. Jesus is alive, and this world needs him desperately. So when you find yourself leading a youth group and the parents or students are wearing you out and testing your patience, remember, Jesus is alive, and he's for you, not against you. When someone dies of a cancer or a suicide and you're asked to say something at the funeral, remember, Jesus is alive. He's for you, not against you. When you're counseling a couple whose marriage is on the rocks, or they're struggling financially, or a man who's addicted to alcohol or pornography, or maybe Satan comes to trap you when you're at your weakest, when you're tired, when you're empty, when you're ready to throw in the towel on ministry, remember, Jesus is alive. He's for you, not against you. Billy Graham once said, "He's alive. I've given my life, not to a dead Christ, but to a living Christ. I have a song to sing. I have a flag to follow. I have reason for existence. I know where I've come from. I know why I'm here, and I know where I'm going." Jesus once said, "The Son of Man must suffer many things. He will be rejected, he will be killed, but on the third day, he will be raised to life. But whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." Jesus is alive. He's not only for you, he's with you. I surprised my wife, Ashley, by taking her on our first date in downtown Kansas City. And as we climbed into the car, I realized something. The last person we passed was a homeless man wearing a hat that said, "I love Jesus." So we turned back around and found the man sitting on the street corner alone. My wife Ashley said to him, "Hey, we love Jesus too. How do you know him?" Then this man named Ernie began to share random stories with us about his life. And after 20 minutes of listening, we thought we would never get an answer, when out of nowhere, he began to tell us about how in the 70s, he was hitchhiking in Columbia, Missouri, when a man picked him up on the side of the road and shared the love of Jesus with him. Now, I was in shock. I asked Ernie, "Do you remember what this man did for a living?" And Ernie said, "Yeah, he worked at the Christian campus house." Again, I asked him if he remembered if this man had white hair. Ernie said, "He sure did. How come? Do you know him?" And with tears in my eyes, I explained to Ernie that this man that had picked him up on the side of the road and shared the love of Jesus with him 40 years ago was my grandpa, Roy Weece, class of 2014. I'm firmly convinced that Jesus is alive, that he's for you, and that he's with you. And as we give our lives in service to his kingdom, remember, we may never see the fruits of our labor, but they are there in the hearts of Ernie and many others. And Jesus is standing at our side, motioning for us to join him in the reconciliation of all things. And the best decision you could ever make is to daily sacrifice your life to your risen Savior.